Hi peeps, welcome back to my channel. And this video, I'm going to be talking about how real life trauma can impact your writing. And of course, I mainly talk about intuitive writers, but I think this can apply to writers who plot as well. So if you would like to subscribe, I would appreciate that. And Ellie is my helper today. Subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up if you would. And we'll get started here in just a moment. So in my other video I put out today, I talked a little bit about the Hedge Dragon series and how it's going to be put on hold for a while due to some traumatic emotions. And I want to talk a little bit about how our emotions can affect our writing. Now, most times I can write through troubles, I can write through difficulties, I can write through most anything because it helps me get away from those troubles. But twice in my life now, I have had incidents that have kind of stalled me out. And the first time it stalled me out for months. This time it was a particular series. So back in 2000, it was bad year for Sam and me. For one thing, he had just lost his job in the dot-com fallout. He had just been diagnosed with ALS, and we were convinced he was going to die within a couple of years. This was back in 2000. He's still alive. They still say he has ALS. He definitely has a neurological disability. We're not sure what it is, but that's the official diagnosis. Anyway, so he had lost his job, just gotten diagnosed with that. My mother was dying of cancer. And a few days after his diagnosis, she died. Well, we weren't making much money. I had not hit the bestseller list at that point. I was making, if I was lucky, about $12,000 a year. Not even that. Yeah, about $8,000 to $10,000 a year on my writing, which in the Seattle area, even in 2000, did not go very far. So we're worried. It's like, how are we going to pay the rent? How are we going to buy groceries? How are we going to deal with Sam having this disease that we thought was going to kill him off right away? And at that time, I was writing the nonfiction. And my publisher at the time, Custom Press, offered me a contract with an advance, which I didn't get for most of my nonfiction. It wasn't much, but it would tide us over for a month or so. However, she wanted the book in 6 weeks. And I was like, oh crap. My mom just died. I'm immersed in grief. I'm immersed in grief over what, Sam had been diagnosed with. But I told him, yeah, I'll take it. We needed the money. And there wasn't anything else coming in at that point. So I took the contract, and every day I wrote, and I don't remember writing the book. It was Totem Magic, which, by the way, I'm putting out again. Totem Magic will be on the shelves shortly for the first time in years. So I was writing a book. I don't remember writing it. I remember going into my office, and I remember sitting down and putting my hands on the keyboard. That's Kiersey back there, by the way. But I don't remember writing the book at all. I still think it's one of my best nonfiction books I've ever written. However, I have no memory of the actual writing. So I wrote the book and I got it done in 6 weeks, and I turned it in and I promptly fell apart. I was so burned out and I was exhausted and I was emotionally just drained. And I couldn't write for about 3 or 4 months. And I knew I couldn't go back to writing nonfiction. I had never wanted to write nonfiction in the first place. It had been kind of an accident that I had, stumbled into. And I knew what I was doing. I was good at writing it, but I wanted to go back to writing stories. I wanted to go back to my first love, which was fiction. Um, after after about 3 or 4 months of just not touching the keyboard, one day I realized I felt like sitting down at the computer and doing some writing. And so I sat down. I looked through all my files. I didn't want to write any of the books that I had in the closet at that point. I had written them and rewritten and nothing had happened. So I just decided to start goofing around. And I wrote a chapter, and Sam read it. He laughed. He thought it was funny. And so I wrote more. And, eventually, long story short, that book ended up being Ghost of a Chance. And I got picked up with Berkeley and settled in for quite a few years with them. But I couldn't write the nonfiction again because it was so bound up with my mother's death because of having to write that book right after she died. And it was so tiring, and so many people wanted advice from me. I got hundreds, thousands of letters when I wrote my nonfiction for people wanting me to solve their problems. And that's not what I'm here for. It's like, yes, I am a shamanic witch. I've now been in the craft over 40 some years. But I wrote the books to help them learn how to help themselves. I didn't write the books to become a guru. I didn't write the books to become a problem solver. And it was difficult and it got overwhelming. And I was just like, I can't do it. I can't do it anymore. And I pulled back from the public eye on that and focused on my fiction, and finally pulled out of that burnout spot. And I don't even know if it was burnout. I think it was overwhelm, which to me is different than burnout. When you are overwhelmed, you cannot deal with even the thought of whatever it is that you're overwhelmed by. And I needed to just recharge for those months. So it was a difficult time. Flash forward to last year, and especially from July on. In July, I had some major issues worrying about friends and family members who had severe problems. And there was nothing I could do. And I was running around trying to figure out what I could do to help when there was nothing I could do. And then in July, all of a sudden, Morgan started losing weight, and we took her to the vet. And behold, she had aggressive cancer and died within 2 weeks. And, the fact that she was 13, barely, she was 12, was just traumatizing because our cats usually live to like 19, 20 years old. So it was just like, what the hell? So during the autumn, I got behind. I got way behind in July and was struggling to catch up. And, I I never did catch up last year. I ended up, just having to move things ahead. And then came December. Well, I'd been having a bunch of reactions, so I was already stressed out. And then 2 years of the pandemic took its toll on me emotionally, even though I didn't get sick, thank God, so far, knock wood. And even though I was terrified because I am high risk for so many factors. And because, I'm not supposed to get the vaccine and I've been meaning to try it. But each time I come up with a flare and then I have to wait. So, yeah, I was stressed by the beginning of December. And I was just barely starting the poison forest, which was behind by a month and a half, I think, and trying to catch up. And for some reason, it was a bit of a struggle. I like the theory, I like the concept, I like the world, I like the characters, but I was having trouble getting the words on paper. And then, December 8th, Kaylee seemed fine. And then the next day, she was super lethargic. And so I took her to the vet the day after that. So, yeah, December 8th, Kaylee seemed fine. December 9th, she was lethargic. I get her to the vet. Actually, I think this was a little later because it didn't take that long. It may have been the next week. Anyway, my timing is a little bit mixed up. Get her to the vet. He can't figure out what's wrong. She doesn't have a fever, but he gives her antibiotics just in case, and he gives her an anti-nausea shot because she had stopped eating for a little bit, for a day or so. And I'd take her home, and that was on a Thursday. And basically the thought was, if she seems to be holding her on Friday, then wait and bring her back in on Monday to get her rechecked. Friday, yeah, she still seemed lethargic, but she seemed to perk up just a little bit. And then Sunday night, all of a sudden, I find her in convulsions and pick her up, and she died in my arms. And it was such a shock. And then we found out, because our vet did a necropsy, she had a rare kidney disease that would not have presented without a biopsy. And we wouldn't have biopsied her because we had no clue that she had a kidney disease. And so, yeah, it was shock. And again, December has been a really rough month on us because that week it was also the anniversary of Sam's stepmom's death, the anniversary of Sam's father's death, and the anniversary of my mother's death. So yeah, I had all that wrapped up energy over the anniversaries and over Kaylee while I was trying to finish the book. And it was a struggle. It was a struggle. I finally got it done. I finally got it, finished and sent off to my editor and published. And then I had to start the second one because when you have a pre-order date, when you're indie, if you can move it ahead once up to 30 days, and that's it. If you cancel a pre-order, except for a limited time that they did during COVID, the worst months of COVID. But if you cancel a pre-order, you can lose your pre-order privileges. And for me, that's a no. I need those pre-orders. It gives me a guaranteed amount that I will make that month. And it also helps because readers don't have to remember when a book is coming out then. They can just pre-order it and it will drop in their Kindle when it's out. Oh, so, okay. I was writing The Tangled Sky and having the same issues I was having with the Poison Forest. So I'm not sure what's going on, it's like trying to deal with it. I had to push ahead the pre-order date, of course, because I had to push it ahead for Poison Forest. So, I spend most of February struggling and not knowing why I don't want to come into my desk. It's like I love writing, I wanted to write on anything else. I wanted to write on the Night Queen series. I wanted to write on the Moonshadow Bay series. I did not want to write on the Hedge Dragon series. And then I have my monthly meeting with my coach. And I'm talking about this problem and saying, I don't know why I am stalling out on this. I don't get writer's block. I don't have writer's block. I don't, I may be stumbling around a couple times, but I generally don't have a block. And she's listening to me, and I'm talking about all the stuff that was going on. And she goes, do you think that maybe you got the trauma of Kaylee's death mixed up in the writing of this series or linked to it? And all of a sudden, everything goes off in my head of yes, yes, yes. And I realized that every time I sat down to write on it, I was revisiting those emotions on a subconscious level. I realized I had to put the series aside. So I decided to turn the book into a novella because I had enough to turn it into a novella, lower the price on it, and put that series on the shelf until I can unravel it from all those emotions. It was kind of daunting to realize what my subconscious had done. I mean, I mainly work on a subconscious level. I'm an intuitive writer, and somehow I had just gotten everything all tangled up, and it's still, I mean, you can see I'm teary-eyed. Still hard to navigate those feelings. But when I made that decision, and when I got the novella done, it was the most incredible relief. It was just like, okay, I can walk away from this for now. I can put it on the shelf. I'm an indie author. I can decide when to move things around. I can decide to take a hiatus from it while I regather myself and regroup. If I were a trad author still, I couldn't do that. I would still have to write those freaking books, even if I was traumatized. Either that or make a publisher very unhappy. So I guess what I'm saying is just if you have trauma going on while you are writing, examine how it's affecting your writing. If your writing feels stilted, if your writing feels stuck, if you're hesitant to approach your desk, if you don't want to sit down to it, take a look and think of whether you actually have mingled the two, got the two entwined with each other, because this was kind of a shock for me. I don't generally do things like that. I don't generally have problems, I'm a seasoned writer. I have written through many, many things. But apparently there are some things I can't write through. It wasn't more difficult than when my mother died, because I expected her to die. We knew she was dying. For 2.5 years, we walked her through cancer. But when it comes out of the blue, it can affect so much of your psyche. And it doesn't have to be a death. It can be many things. It can be an accident. It can be a severe illness. And I'm not going to tell you there's any easy answer for it, except if you do get your writing entwined with trauma, then you have to look at how you can navigate that. And for me, it is working on other series while I let the energy and the grief work itself through. And I fully expect I will be writing more books about Storm in the future. I hope so. I'm not going to promise, it's like, I don't want to make promises, but I hope to. But right now is not the time. And this is just one of those problematic issues that writers will have to deal with at some point in their life. There's always going to be some point in your life when trauma does hit. Hopefully it won't be very often. Hopefully it won't come till till later, but trauma is part of life and it will affect our entire psyche. So I guess, this is not a how-to video. This is not a solve a problem video. This is simply a here's what happened to me. And if you're having some more problems, take a look and see if maybe it's a factor in your life too. So yeah, I'm starting the first book in the Night Queen series. And I'll be playing in, the paranormal women's fiction series too this year. And we'll go from there. I just hope that my readers understand. And I hope for you people out there who are authors that you can gain something from my experience and at least be aware of what can happen. So I guess that's going to be it for today. Yeah. And it's good to talk to you again. And sorry I teared up, but it is what it is. Kaylee was my heart kitty. And while lovely Ellie is moving into being my heart kitty, it's obvious she's worming her way in. There's never replacing someone who is a big part of your life. If someone is very important to us, then the loss is going to affect us. And to end on a happier note, well, I would invite you to, if you're interested, hop over to my Patreon page and take a look. I'm going to talk about my Patreon in another video soon. And also sign up for my newsletter. And I will talk to you later. Take care, bright blessings, and be safe.